All right, I'm so pumped. Denise Donoghue is on for the Mortgage Rainmaker Podcast. And Denise, I will never forget meeting you. You didn't know I was meeting you, but being introduced to you for the first time. Dave Savage brought to me this concept of edutainment. And he's like, Shayla, the modern loan officers understand edutainment. They're educating and they're entertaining. Have you ever heard of Denise Donoghue? And I'm like, no. I think I was living in Spain at the time. And so I watched you on Instagram and I really quickly understood what edutainment was because Denise, you were like on a Saturday or a Sunday, literally sitting in your bed. I remember the bed frame behind you and you're doing a story and you're talking about a conversation you just had with a borrower on should they put more money down or should they pay points or, how do they structure an offer? And then I'd watch you like throw up a mortgage coach TCA and tell the difference between stuff. That I was like, oh, damn. Like you're taking nerdy stuff and it's actually really entertaining. And since then, you've gone on to grow this brand, The Mortgage Nerd. You are just always seem to be 10 steps ahead of everybody in our industry. I don't know if there's anybody that's been more knocked off on social than you. Because it's like, oh, yeah, of course, NAR is happening and every realtor needs to understand max seller concessions. And Denise has put together this beautiful graphic and is talking about it in like the most simple, basic terms. Like, yeah, that's how we should talk about it. So for that, Denise, thank you for your brilliance. Thank you for your contribution to our industry. I continue to see you grow as a leader, as a mom, as a wife. We've been to wealth building seminars together. We've spoken on stages together. We've gone and been coached side by side together. And it's just been a real joy to watch you grow. And I always learn from you. And you are super, super generous in sharing everything that you do, including your new rollout of the Nerd Academy, where you are literally teaching people how you do everything you do. So thank you for being on the podcast.
Oh my gosh, of course. What's so crazy is that even though you're only like a year or two older than me, it's just like, you're just this older sister that genuinely is invested and cares about my success and even more so my well-being. And so I just want to say thank you to you because there's not a whole lot of humans in the world, let alone in this space where it's like, we can still work for different companies and still be cool with one another and still be two females and still want each other to not only win, but like you're always the one that's like cheering the loudest. So I just want you to know, I feel that from you and it never is taken for granted from me. I probably don't thank you enough. So thank you for being my little big sis cheerleader.
Well, it's fun to recognize the hustle and the desire and the want in somebody else. And I think for me, what I found in the mortgage industry, Denise, is my people. I don't know about you, but I always felt a little weird growing up. Like I always felt different, special, misunderstood. I always felt like I had to like package myself in a way that was acceptable to others because if I was truly the intense, passionate go-getter, I would definitely stand out more than I wanted to. And so in our industry, I feel like I've gotten to collect people like us, people that are just burn the bridges, be your biggest, baddest, brightest selves, and be a mom and travel and be in love. Like, let's freaking do it. And so thank you for being a sister out there doing that. And you make me feel less alone. If that makes sense. Okay. So becoming a rainmaker, a lot of us have heard your story. You had a tough childhood, your dad losing everything financially, your mom ticking over into mental health issues, and you having to become self-made on your own, you having to build the security and stability on your own. And you're in a call center and you're doing dialing and you're in finance. That way you become a loan officer. So obviously you're smart, you're hungry, you're humble, you had a chip on your shoulder, you had to make this work and you're succeeding. But I want to know the inflection point of when Denise was going from good to like mega status, going from like, oh, I'm in the top 5 of my company, or I'm the best in my little market or my little branch or whatever, to like being best in the nation. What happened there? What was your mindset? What community were you part of? What were your frustrations that helped you just like go, I'm going to be a freaking rainmaker and a monster in this industry?
I love this question. And I've thought about it from time to time. And I remember I used to work at Chase Bank. I got in the mortgage business in '07, got out fairly quickly because they couldn't fund loans. And so I went to Chase Bank, took 5 steps back, was making $32,000 a year when I was in the mortgage business. So I was like, wait, is that like for the whole year, just 32? Okay. But I remember I had a district manager there and he made a lot of money and he wore really nice suits and he had a nice car. And he would talk about things like how he had this sounds so silly, but he had a guy that would come every weekend and cut his grass, and he had a cleaning lady come to his house. And why are you working this hard to then spend your weekends to do these kinds of things? And when I actually thought about it, and probably after some therapy sessions, it was like, I realized that I had a negative connotation to rich people or people who made a lot of money, that they were either a-holes or they had to treat people poorly to make that kind of money or step on top of people to get. It's just my association with a lot of money, whatever that might mean to you, was like, you have to be a bad human to make good money. And when I self-discovered that was internal, and it took like digging it out of me. It wasn't just like I woke up one morning, was like, oh, this is why I'm like kind of self-sabotaging my success of, okay, well, once I get to 8 units a month, I'm good. I'm happy because that made this much a month. And I mean, that's more money than anybody that I know has ever made, until I self-discovered that there was this negative association with what people are like who have money. And I started meeting people who had money that were nice people and they were humble people and they care about people. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. So you can actually still be a good person and make good money? Well, what would it be like if I doubled my income? And then I heard this saying that money is just a multiplier of who you are. So if you're a bad person, the money's just going to multiply that you're a bad person. But if you're a good person, it's going to multiply the good that you could do for yourself, for your family, for the people around you. And that really resonated with me to a point where I was like, all right, well, then there is no limit. Let me do a lot of good for people. And so that's what's been, I think that truthfully, that mentality shift was like, okay, I can do a lot of good and make a lot of money and not be a jerk.
And so was that the impetus to leave Chase and to be on your own and then go for it and to make as much money as you could?
Yeah, I really realized that this business, you can really make as much money as you want. The amount of effort, it was tied to the effort that you want to put into it. And then, the more effort you put in. And then I realized, well, I don't really want to work like really hard. I'd rather work really smart than work really hard. So how can I do this business as smart and as efficient and less hard, actually? And that's when I got obsessed with learning how to do this business and not be a slave to it. Because I actually think that I was just talking to a loan officer yesterday and they were like, wow, sometimes I look at you and I look at your volume and I'm like, that would be really cool to do, but I bet you have a lot of stress and a lot of problems. And I'm like, that's your negative self-talk, telling yourself that more loans means more problems. But the truth is that if your business is run super smart and efficient and your process is really good, you'd probably be surprised that I only spend like less than 20 hours a week on my personal production business. I don't even know if I spend that much, to be honest, but like, I don't have a lot of problems because I've built such an efficient process. It's like Chick-fil-A. Doesn't matter if it's 12 p.m. on a Saturday at Chick-fil-A, you order your sandwich here, you pick it up here. It tastes fantastic. The service is great. Doesn't matter what part of the country you're in. It's fantastic. It's just, you're not designing the business right. It's clunky. And so that's why you're having the problems. But again, the association of, well, to be like a Shayla and do all that business, God, I bet Shayla's life sucks. It's like, nope, Shayla's life's pretty cool. I don't know if you guys follow her, but like she's traveling all the time and her husband and wife, like relationship's fantastic with her 2 kids are fantastic. It's like, nope, that's your negative self-talk limiting you. And it doesn't have to be that way.
Well, I do have to say that there's been a lot of suffering that I've been through. There's been a lot of sacrifice that I've been through. And yes, there's been a lot of problems and more money, more problems. And it's never going to be perfect. And so that's the other thing that I see people say is, oh, I'm so afraid that my life would be consumed if I did 10 loans a month or 20 loans a month. And so you don't even try, number one, instead of designing what you want it to be, which is I'd love to help 20 families a month because this is the kind of impact that I will have. This is how many real estate partners I will have. This is the kind of money I will have and the money I can save. And then how would I do 20 in the most sustainable, fun, smooth way? And then you start building those processes in. But let's be real, a lot of the processes that do get built come from pain. Totally. They come from mistakes. They come from screw ups. They come from hard phone calls that have to be made. And the difference between Denise and I is that we were just more willing to do whatever it took to get the result we wanted, knowing that we can't take it personally and let it completely derail us. Right. So yeah, I always say, try not to take it personally, take your process personally. So if something goes haywire, go back to your checklist and add something in. Do you have a deal killer checklist? Do you have a checklist for how you take a lead, for how you input the lead, for how you do things? And then when things go wonky, as they will, and team members make mistakes and have life issues, as they will, because people are people, you can come back to thinking about your goal long-term and knowing that there is going to be sacrifice to get there, because you haven't always worked 20 hours in your team. Is that right, Denise?
Oh my gosh. No, I mean, a saying that I always share with my nerds is you have to be agile in the process. So there are some personality types. I don't have this personality type, so I don't have to deal with it as much. We are all wired differently. I have my own things that I have to deal with. But there are some personality types that won't do something until it's perfect.
Yep.
Right. And so that's okay. We just have to acknowledge that. And then we have to figure out how we can cope with that. But the truth is if you can design a business around 80% of the time and understand that 20% of the time, it's not going to go according to plan. A deal is going to fall apart. You're going to pre-qualify somebody wrong. Your LOA that issued this pre-approval didn't include mortgage insurance. And now the client's out shopping. And 20% of the time, the business, no matter what business, is not going to go according to plan. And if you can find ways within your own personality DNA of how to cope with that and be agile enough to be aware, make the tweak, make the change. Don't be like, oh my gosh, we're never doing this again. This LOA's fired. No, I expect mistakes. I don't expect repeated mistakes, and I hold you to a high standard. But I know when I bring on somebody that's new, there's going to be some mistakes. And so I think that the better you can be at the 20% that's going to go sideways, how you respond to it, how you react to it. And then as you grow a team, how your team sees you respond and react to it. I think that's going to show how you can grow and scale. But if you're constantly waiting for it to be perfect or have the perfect process or the perfect LOA, or it's really hard to grow and scale that way, because it's like if you picked up a sand and you try to hold that, you pick up sand and you hold it really tight in your hand, it's just going to all fall out.
Yeah.
But if you just scoop up the sand and you're just holding it enough, you're going to be able to actually hold on to more sand. And I think that's the hard part is, one, identifying what is your personality type, where's your strengths and weaknesses. And if you don't know, ask your team or ask your family for open, honest feedback of where you suck and where you don't. They'll tell you, but invite that, and then work on the part where you might not be so great at so that you can make tweaks and grow. But no, I mean, I tell people all the time, when you're in the grind phase, and Shayla, I think you do a really good job articulating there are stages in this business. A lot of us might have been at one stage in these last 2 years. We're humbled back down to that first stage. You're not guaranteed to stay at any stage, by the way.
Exactly.
But, when you're in when you're in the grind stage, you are grinding. Like, I worked all the time. I open house crashed every weekend. I worked late nights. If someone called me when I was in the middle of dinner, I did whatever it took to get the business in. And then once the business starts coming in and you start getting contracts, as long as you stick to your principles of what you do every time you get a contract with the listing agent, and when you make the calls and how you follow up after closing, and the business does get easier and you start going to another stage. And how long it takes for you to get from stage 1 to stage 2 depends on what you do every day to get there. And I'm going to use one analogy, but when I started my fitness journey, they were like, okay, if you want to lose X amount of weight, if you want to do it as fast as possible, you're going to have to work out 5 days a week and eat a salad every day for lunch. I'm just generalizing it.
Yep.
But if your time frame can be 9 months, then we can do 5 days of salads, one cheat meal a day in a week, and then you'll hit your goal in 9 months. But you can't do a cheat meal every week and still expect the result to be between 5 and 6 months. And so it's kind of the same analogy I share with loan officers is in this market, I think realistically, the grind is probably twice as long as what some of you guys might think it is. Because you go to these conferences or webinars and you see these people doing all these things, and they don't talk about where the grind was, but it's going to take a while. And when you do get to that next phase, man, it does get easier, and then it can get easier and easier, but there's no elevator to the top.
Yeah. I think about 3 phases, grind, warrior, and sage. And you're definitely entered in the sage phase. You are spending a lot of your time teaching, training, supporting, empowering other people. But, you may stay in grind forever if you grind and stop and grind and stop and grind and stop. You and I were just willing to stay in the pain to eventually pop through to the next stage, right? So
yeah,
when we look at your sales archetypes and think about you as a rainmaker, there's the grind phase, which is do whatever it takes, get completely uncomfortable, talk to people, see people, open houses, cold calls, whatever you got to do. And then there's this refinement, which is probably the warrior phase, where you're starting to be like, okay, my number one job duty is to make it rain. I'm going to track everything that I do. I'm going to be on purpose with a plan. I'm going to be bold, and I'm going to ask for the business, right? You're a marketer, primary. Trust builder, secondary. You collect people, and then you really build trust with them. You understand that. What were some of the things that you did initially as a marketer to get scale? Once you started figuring out like, okay, I'm good at this. Now I want to scale it.
Yeah. It's interesting because when I got into sales, especially when I was in the phone sales environment, and some of you guys watching this might still have this belief, but the sales tactics that we were once taught in coaching programs, even in this space that still exists, I don't think that they're super relevant to where the current climate and culture of humans are today. We're so much more, like if you think about even just talking about our emotions and the vulnerability and people going to therapy and being open about therapy, like just the climate and what has magnified on social media these days, it's just so drastically different than where we were just 5 years ago. And so in 2012, when I decided to go by the Mortgage Nerd, I started using social media as a form of marketing, as truly a business tool, not a toy. Most people at that time were still using social media as, look what I ate for dinner. And I have been using social media before it was even cool to use social media as, let me share a story with you. And so everything that I do then and now is literally about the audience and not about me. It is, let me share a story with how I helped this first-time home buyer go under contract for their dream home at the monthly payment they wanted. Or here's how I helped this real estate agent get 3 contracts in less than 2 weeks with our no tax return investor program. And so it's a hook, but it's not, look how great I am. Look at me at the closing table. Look at, and that's where I see we're a little bit removed from that, I think now, but almost every video that I had seen in the last 24 months of real estate professionals, lenders in this space was them on camera, really talking about how great they are. Look at my client review. Look at how I, and that's so unsexy. I want to use story selling. I want to use wealth sharing. And so that's why marketer is always been the foundation of, if I can share this story with somebody, and somebody in Pennsylvania, which I'm not even licensed in, but somebody sees my video on YouTube about how I helped this client after the close remove their PMI insurance without having to refinance. And I would get comments from people in other states like, thank you so much for sharing this. I called my lender and I was able to save $236 a month. Had I not watched your video, I would have been paying $236 a month for the next 7 years. And I'm like, oh my God, what could we do? So then I'm like, what could we do with $236? You know what I mean? Like, what if we put that in it? So it's always been about the audience. It's always been a form of story sharing. of, if this resonates with you, think of me. And I think that's what's really important in marketing today.
So 2012 is 13 years ago. Do you think that's when you really started making these huge jumps in terms of now you're really a lead magnet? Now you're having to build a team. Now you're like, top producer mode, but starting to get into the Hall of Famer kind of level of production. Like, was that the inflection point, is when you actually really honed in on your storytelling and marketing as your primary?
Absolutely.
Right?
Because, people today only see it on social media, but I swear, like 10 hours of my 20 hours that I work in my personal business is like content writing and consuming data that I can, from the research that I do, to then produce a solid video like that. You can't just pop on and give stats about the economy or your local market or without having to consume data and research. You know what I mean? But
Yep.
I do so much content writing as far as for social channels or for email outlets or for text messages or for the CRM or for the loan officer group, for my group, for the Nerdcat. Like I am constantly writing and then studying human behavior and what is relevant in today's marketplace, because it's a different market. First-time home buyers it's different. So I challenge loan officers and I ask them to think. I'm like, is your business practice, if what we do as a business and your business manufacturing process, let's just say with who's on your team and what they do, does it look the same today as it did 3 years ago? Does it look the same as it did 6 years ago? I don't understand how that could be possible given so much change in the business as well as technology change, that I would argue you might still be using, you might still be using the yellow pages to look up a phone number when there's Chat GPT. So I would say, to answer your question directly, is when I started educating or edutainment on, I just want to put this out there, it was never actually with the intention to generate all of these leads. I've never paid for leads or online leads. It was truly from a motive of educating, which is why if it was Sunday and I looked like a hot mess express, but there was something that was so important to get out, because it wasn't about, the motive wasn't me, it was sharing the message right then and there because I was so compelled to share the message. That's what the snowball started to grow. And I think the audience could feel that it was authentic. Now, I wish I was smart enough to say that I orchestrated all that and planned it all. I didn't. But as we started getting more business, and by the way, you can't show up like that and then have a crappy business.
Right. You got to.
So my manufacturing process is on point before they find a home, during, and after. So dialed in that I would put it up against anybody's. But you got to take care of the client even after the fact. And when the reputation matches what people are seeing online, that's the rocket fuel.
Yes.
So then it was, I've got to find people, and what are the job roles going to be? And, first it was this LP1, LP2, and in 2019, we switched that model. And so it's fun orchestrating, and it's actually fun as business changes. And, Chat GPT. I remember when I was designing a CRM, we didn't have text messages. Right. Now all of a sudden there's text messages. I'm like, oh, got to rewrite some of these playbooks. Yeah. And now there's Chat GPT and all other things that we could go into, but you need to always be evaluating your process and making sure that it's relevant to the market that we're in. You can't just set it and forget it. But that means you have to be a student.
Yes. So here's what I love that you had to say, and I want listeners to hear this, is that you are a marketer through and through. You study other marketing, you're studying data, you really care about telling a story. You feel compelled to tell the story. And you're like, oh, now I can market over email. Now I can market over text. Now I can market over YouTube. Now I can market over this. You are a marketer through and through. And so I think that's one of the reasons you've had this consistent growth, is you haven't been chasing the shiny things. You've known, this is me and this is my strength, and I'm going to do that. And I think so many people right now, what their problem is that they're listening to things like this and they're going, oh, I got to get on social. I got it. Or I'm the one that's posting pictures of me, instead of about the audience. But their archetype is not a marketer. By the way, mine is not a marketer. And what I would say is you need to maximize your primary and secondary archetypes first.
Totally.
to the nth degree to be a rainmaker, because that's what's natural to you. And that's where you have to bump against your own comfort zone. I guarantee even you, Denise, have had to really stretch your comfort zone about showing up as a hot mess, about showing up vulnerably and telling these vulnerable stories, about, having to, I don't know, like do things that you think are dumb or frivolous because you are like, it's all for the audience and the storytelling. Am I right?
Totally.
I've watched you evolve.
Yeah. I mean, totally. There's so many things that are not, so many things. And yeah, you just have to, it's part of it. You just got to.
So I want to mention that the key is marrying the two archetypes, because your secondary, being a trust builder, is such an asset. Because what I find is the pinch point for a marketer is that oftentimes marketers will hide behind their camera. They'll hide behind their email. They will just be pushing out marketing and kind of a spray and pray. If I'm visible everywhere, they can get stuck looking at their vanity metrics. How many followers, how many likes, and they can ride an emotional roller coaster comparing to somebody else. What I think is so brilliant about you, Denise, is that you said, I'm going to do marketing to educate. I'm a teacher. I like to communicate and tell story, but I know conversion is going to happen by actually converting a viewer,
right,
a fan, into like a nerd alum, or like you actually have taken your brand to the point where it's like, I want to be part of the nerd group or community or alumni. And you go deep with people on building trust, which is why you had how many agents? 10 agents, 12 agents that closed 10 or more units with you.
Yeah.
That's an unbelievable amount of people that are giving you that level of business. So your marketing is your visibility, but your conversion strategy is trust builder. So can you talk to me out of these 12 agents you closed 10 deals with last year, did they find you through your marketing? And then how did you convert them through trust building? Is it one to many that then goes to a one-on-one?
Yeah.
Tell me how that works.
So I would say most of them were a listing agent that were on a transaction. I have a very mapped out, planned process of when you have a listing agent that starts at the time of offer. So if the offer doesn't get accepted, this is still a agent that you can impress. But I have a defined process. I follow it every single time. Once we do a contract together, our communication during the contract is fun, it's proactive, it's humanized, and it's personalized. So there are a lot of, I think, companies that have CRMs or things that are canned. And it's good. It's like, hey, your file's out of underwriting, but like everything that I do is a touch of like humor, cheesy humor, but it's like a picture of a Ferrari, like, okay, your file's clear, you're closed, but that doesn't mean to go out and buy a Ferrari. And I can't tell you how many clients are like, but what if I bought the Porsche? And it's just, it's like, it's fun because it's not a boring like mortgage transaction. So there's always little fun things that I sprinkle in there. And then we have a process after close with the listing agent. And so because a lot of these agents have gone through the process, again, the manufacturing process, I've walked the walk of I can deliver and I can be consistent. And then every week I do a value bomb email. And then if it's a new agent, every 2 weeks, I'm calling them. And so my consistency of my process is probably the first thing that they notice, to be honest. And then the second thing is they go to my social to see if I'm legit or not. And if you don't think people are doing that, every single one of them are, including your clients. So then after they've gone through my manufacturing process and they're like, okay, she seems different, I like it, let me go look at her social. And then it's like, boom, this chick is serious about her business. She is showing up consistently. I like the way that she communicates. She seems financial. She's showing me stuff that I haven't seen before. And then again, they're getting the emails and I'm inviting them. I have a call to action every single time we're doing webinars. And so I'm just slowly attracting them at that point. And so I do get a fair share amount of people that are like, I've seen you online. You mentioned this. It's almost always, you mentioned that this program, this no tax return program. Can you tell me more about that? And that's how it starts. And it's almost always filmed, by the way, with my phone. There's nothing fancy. I don't have anything fancy. This is a Logitech camera right now. So you don't need fancy equipment. You don't need any of that. You don't need fancy lighting. You don't need fancy mics. I mean, make sure your audio is somewhat okay. But what I think is important is if you're not a marketer, that's okay. Shayla just said that she's not. One of our top producers here closed 23 loans last month, closed 25 loans the last month. She's been in the business for less than 2 years. She's a mom of 2 twin toddlers that are 2 years old. She has no social media.
Yeah.
That's what's so cool about what you talk about with your archetypes is like, you can win at any one that you are. You just have to be all in at the one that you're in. And if it's not marketing, don't follow my advice. Like, don't do it to a degree. Don't do what I do.
Don't try to be Denise. And like after 2 days, you're going, there's no way I can't do that. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like me trying to eat like a like I hate broccoli. Like I hate broccoli, but I love crispy Brussels sprouts. So like, don't make broccoli every night. You're not going to stick with it, but there's an alternative and it's fantastic. And so like, then just eat the Brussels, you know what I mean? Like I think that's what's so important about your message. And what I love that you're sharing this about the message, because I think that's what we forget is you have to stay true to who you are. You have to find out who you are. So if you haven't taken the test, go to Shayla's site, take the test, uncover who you are, and then find people in the world that are like you and learn what they're doing. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I think that's so important.
And I want to highlight that you have said multiple times, I build trust by being the real deal, by actually providing the exceptional service, by really caring about my business and doing things consistently, like a value bomb email and all this. So I will tell you, Denise closed 274 loans, 110 million. They're in Dallas, Texas in 2024. Okay. I can tell you, I've closed many, many years of 400 deals a year. I think my team did 225 last year. I don't do 1/10 of the marketing that she's doing. So it's the point is exactly what she said. You have to work in your strength and your archetype to do it. Where Denise could absolutely crush me to the end of the earth is doing what she's doing and sprinkling in a little bit more of like the Shayla boldness, which I know she does too, of calling these big daddy builders and going, hey, could you imagine what my process could do in helping of you convert? Could you imagine what my process could do to, warm up your buyers or something like that, right? So for me, I am a technician networker. So we are exact opposites. I will go out into a room and I will, as a technician, be very strategic on who are the power players in this room. And I've seen you do it now. I've seen you, and I know you've always done this. You're again, it's whatever it takes. But what I'm noticing about what you tell me is like, I'm going to wow you and impress you through my process. And I'm going to call to action you. And once you surface up to the top and you call me, because that's what marketers do, I'm going to give you so much that eventually you're going to call me. I would not wait. I would be like, yo, I saw you on my thing. I've watched you forever. I want to have a meeting and I'm going to close you. Because that's just me. I'm like more go direct and get it done. Yeah. Whereas Denise is like, I'm going to slowly percolate. I'm going to waterboard you with so much fabulousness that you, and I'm like, I'm just going to be, blow in, blow up and blow out. And that's my style.
I love it. Yeah, I know. I wish that's the whole thing. It's like when I see you even in rooms and how intentional you are with like every conference you go to, I sit and I admire it so much because I'm like, God, that's so smart. Like she's using her time so smart. She's got all these appointments. I'm like, I should really do that next time.
And you're sitting there with your bag of goldfish and hot tamales. That was pre-fitness journey.
Yeah.
And you're talking to the one person who's next to you because you're a trust builder.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, your marketing brain is already developed like 10 of the most epic follow-ups that you're going to turn into webinars, that you're going to turn into social posts, that whatever. And I'm like, not even aware of any of that crap.
Yeah. It's so, I love it. I love that you're highlighting this so much because it's so needed to be verbalized, but it's like step one, figure out what you are. And then step two, how to freaking put rocket fuel behind it,
And I think anybody that identifies themselves as a marketer needs to get as close to Denise Donoghue as they possibly freaking can. You need to be in Nerd Academy. You need to be on every webinar she does. You need to be around her and Deb when they do the stuff that they do together in their masterminds, because you're a marketer. Like, and this is the best of the best, top performer. Her brain never shuts off. It's unflipping believable. This is where you need to go. And then you need to look at your secondary strength and figure out how that can help you with the weaknesses so that you don't get stuck living in vanity metrics, comparison, and spraying and praying, that you actually convert. And, and for those of you that are trust builders primary, what I have found, Denise, is a lot of trust builders want to win people over by just continuing to show up and spend a lot of time. And they call the same people over and over and over again. So their Achilles heel is like, I build deep, fabulous relationships and I convert at a high level, but I have such a small group of people that know me. I'm a secret, right? Yep. And so they've got to pour gasoline on the trust builder, whereas you're a little bit less like, you're going to like me because you like my performance. You're going to like me because I freaking, I kill it.
Yeah. I do what I say I'm going to do. And your client walks away informed and educated and the business side.
Right. So, okay, I have to talk about what I see as one of your unbelievable key strengths, and it's your ability to articulate and communicate, to take something that's complicated and make it simple. And really, that is what influence is all about. And being a salesperson is moving somebody from point A to point B. So what are some of the things you coach on a daily basis or you think about to be a compelling communicator? And whether, let's not even talk about social, let's just talk about you're talking to a customer and you're trying to get them off the, into action.
So I think the number one thing is that us as humans, no matter how great you are, we all have blind spots with how we communicate to our partner, to our kids, to clients. And you have to first be open-minded to getting feedback of what you might be communicating. And so what that typically looks like within our group is I'll show you, here's how to make, let's just say you're delivering a buyer consult, someone's getting pre-qualified or pre-approved. What are you reviewing in that consult? Do you have a presentation outline? What are you using to describe, let's say, the debt to income ratio? Are you using analogies? Are you just saying your DTI is a 34%? So, you can buy 400,000 like that. That does not communicate and land on the human brain in front of you. And so if your goal is to truly make an impact and inform and educate, again, it all goes back to what are the words and the messaging? Who's it for? Is it for you to feel like, look at me, look how smart I am, look at all these charts, look at all this data, look at all these acronyms? Or is it actually for the person in front of you? This person's a firefighter and the other person's a nurse. And so like, what can you use to describe the things that we're talking about that's very complex in our world, even as simple as explaining a 2-1 buy down? You know how hard it is to explain a freaking 2-1 buy down? It's confusing. So I feel like the best place to start, I grew up playing sports, you watch film. Even if you don't have a mentor or coach watching it, I would suggest recording all of your Zoom calls that you have with a client or an agent or a webinar or whatever, and then watching the tape back and look for things like body language of the person in front of you. Because oftentimes when we're on Zoom, we kind of black out. We don't really know what we're saying, but you can, if you are watching film to analyze and study, watch the person in front of you. What was their body language? What questions are they asking? Do they shut down? The second thing I would pay attention to is the tonality. I think that, man, like when I watch Shayla, holy shit, I get like, no matter when I'm watching her at any conference, you just can't help but be like, oh, let's go take on the world. Like she has that conviction. Deion Sanders has it too. There's conviction. And I think that's what a lot of us lack is, how are you showing up? Are you raising your voice at times? Are you intentionally pausing and slowing things down? When you're talking about such an important topic like interest rates, does your tonality get really scared and you say a lot of ums and ahs? And like, you need to pay attention to those things, because if you're working with enough clients, but you're not seeing your conversion rate go up, it's oftentimes in the language of what you're communicating and how you're delivering it, whether that's a presentation or whatnot. If it's too confusing, you will paralyze the client in indecision. Or if it's too confusing, they will feel the need to go research and fact check what you said. And if they go out looking, they'll find better. So I feel like there's such an art to it, but we don't study it enough.
Oh, that was so good. Thank you for saying that, because I think the feeling the conviction, you bringing up Deion Sanders, we all have that. Like, I want you to get so pissed off and passionate about what you're doing in your style that people feel it. Totally. And I want you to become a rainmaker in your style, just as Denise has. And I want you to know that there's people like her and I that cover all 4 archetypes that want to help see you break through. So Denise, this has been a fantastic conversation. I'm so proud of the way you show up in the world and what you've accomplished. How can people stay in touch with you, follow you, watch you, learn from you?
You can follow me on social at The Mortgage Nerd. You can reach out anytime if you need anything. Shayla's got my info. You can reach out to Shayla, follow me on Instagram. Whatever we can do to make an impact, I'm totally for.
And you can learn her step-by-step how-to of all these pillars that she's talking about to have an exceptional process that you feel very proud of by joining the Nerd Academy. It's $97 a month, you guys. And for those of you that need to be stronger on the how-tos and the fundamentals, by the way, that's all of us. I would spend the money, invest the time, and just get good at this because it's a limitless future ahead of you. So Denise, thank you.
You're the best.